Hello, it's Dan Bunker here from United Learning's EdTech team, and today I want to have a quick look at the new feature of the home page on class teams. So I've logged into Office 365 and found my class team and clicked on the home page here, and you can see it's got a default layout here of some things that might be useful for me and my class when we visit Teams. So the home page can be found right at the top, and the first time you click on it, it'll set up this default template, which looks pretty useful, but it might not be quite as you want. So I want to just take you through some of the steps that you can edit on the home page to create something a bit more customized, like this example here, where we've got our own photo and our own headings, the useful resources that our class will need for a particular time, and then links to assignments, other websites, and their recent files. You can also add things like forms if there's a current piece that you want pupils to undertake, and you can put in a file viewer so you can share your slides. So that's what we're aiming to do, and we're going to start from this starting point here, which is just the Microsoft Teams standard template. Now I'm going to start off by going to the top right and editing the template. Just to give you a little bit more real estate while you're doing this, expand the tab so the home page takes up your whole screen. So I've got my tab extended, and I'm now going to click on edit to go into the SharePoint page where I can edit the sections and the content. I'm going to start off by changing this image here into one that reflects my own class. And when I click on the image, I get a little edit web part option, the little pencil there. And when I click on that, I can change the image. And when I click on change, I'll be able to search for some sort of stock image, search my OneDrive, upload a file, wherever you've got an image that you're happy to use. I've just got a free stock image here just to use for this demonstration purposes. I'm going to click on open, and then when I'm happy I've got the right image, I'm going to go down to the bottom right and add that image to the page. Now you may want to crop that image because it doesn't quite fit or it takes up too much of the page. So I'm going to use the crop here, crop with free aspect ratio, so I'm just going to cut the bottom off this particular image just so it fits nicely on the page, and then I'm going to click elsewhere to do that. Now you can add your own text here if you so wish. You might want to put a welcome message on the image, and if you don't like that, you can just turn that off by unchecking the add text over image. So I'm not going to have that. They all know which class they're in, so I'm going to turn that off. So there's my first little section here, and one thing I might want to do is just change the background color. You don't have a huge amount of choice, but there are some different shading effects. So I'm going to go for the full kind of shaded background for this particular section, and I'll change it at various points during the page. Now the next thing I'm going to do is just change this heading here, and this is where I might want my welcome message. I'm just going to put welcome to class 6 here as my message, and then here you can put kind of any announcements that you want. I'm going to say something like PE is on Tuesday and Thursday, for example. And I might want to just change the font here and perhaps make it the same sort of heading size, or maybe slightly smaller. You can play around and get the desired effect. So there's my first kind of section. I've got a picture of the class and a welcome message. Now what I'm going to do now is just change this up a little bit and add my own section in. So we've got a section here where it's got kind of 2 columns. We've got the class schedule, and we've got various resources and assignments, etc. So I'm going to click on the plus button to create a new section. This is a new block on the page where we can have our various parts. So I'm going to click on the plus section, and I'm going to put in 3 columns here for some information. Now some of this I do want to keep and some of this I don't. So I'm going to click on the resources bit here and move that into my section above. The assignments I want to keep, so I'm going to drag that up there as well. I'm not going to keep the about me. I'm going to just delete that. I'm not going to keep the class schedule. I'm going to delete that. The recent files, this might be useful, but just to make it clear, it's the user's recent file. So I'm just going to put your recent files there, and I'm going to drag that up into my section there. So I've got created a new section which is kind of their information, and I've got a kind of a blank section here which I'll add something in a moment, and I can drag these around to lay out the page as I wish. Okay, so far so good. Now I want to add some new content now in this section. What I'm going to do here is maybe just change the colouring of the section. So go for a kind of a medium shading there. And I then want to add some more elements. So when I go to the top of the section, you can see a little plus button in the grey. I click on that, and this is the web part. These are the building blocks of your page. So what might be useful here, maybe here's a YouTube video that we're going to use in the next couple of weeks. So I'm going to add that, and it asks me then to add that video. I'm just going to go and copy the URL. So this is one about World War II evacuees, which will be useful for my class. So I've copied the URL. I'm going to add the video, and on the right hand side here I'm just going to paste in that link, and that video gets popped on the page there. So they don't have to leave the comfort of Teams, the home page. They can find the resources on there without having to wander off and use YouTube directly. You can actually change the start time, decide whether you want the controls and the enhanced privacy, but that's fine for my purposes here. And then on this section here, I'm going to add another resource as well. So I click on the plus sign here and decide what it is I want. In this case, I think it'd be quite useful for them to be able to access all the files in the team. So there is a document library option. I'm going to click on the document library, and it's just the general team documents that I want to surface here. So instead of having to look through all the channels, this is the SharePoint library of all the resources in that team, which could be useful to help children find the files that they need. So I'm happy with that as it is. Just you can change these if you so wish. You can change a few parameters here, but I'm happy with it. I'm going to close that down. And if I want to see how this is going, I'm going to click on republish. That will save my work so far, and I can see how this page is looking. If I go to full screen, you can see I've got a nice home page here. I've got some resources here, which we'll have a look at in a moment. And then we've got my own kind of documents here. And I'll add a little bit more to this by going back in and editing it. And what I might do is actually just bring up this section a little bit higher, so I can move that section above, if you like, the section with their materials in it. So I've now got kind of our useful resources here. And just to explain what that is, I might add just a small section, which is one column, which will take up the whole width of the page. And I can then add into that some text, or maybe just a little divider here, just to show we're starting a new section. And then underneath, here's my text. I'm just going to call this useful resources. And again, you can change the font size with this text by selecting it and choosing the size that you want. And if you want to center it, etc., you can do that as well. So you can see my page developing here, and then I'm going to just make a few edits here. So this section here is a web part that was already there called resources. I'm going to just add a few resources to that. These are kind of web links. So if you've got some useful kind of web links, you can add those as a link here. I'm going to use BBC Bite Size Year 6 English, for example. I'd like them to be able to access this, so I'm just going to copy that to my clipboard, and then it's ready to paste in, and then I'm going to add that link to it. And if there's some here that you don't want, you can highlight those and delete them. So you can add all your links here that you need. I'll just add one more here. Let's go back and do the maths bite-size one, and then we'll have both for the children to use. So it's just a question of copying that link and then adding that link to that particular web part. You can see how that would be useful for them. I could put in another heading here, you know, say something like you know, your useful resources, or links for you, whatever you think would be helpful. I'm going to add one more section just to show the two features shown earlier. So things like a form and your slideshows, which could be very useful to surface easily for the children. So again, I'm going to add a section here. I'm going to use 2 columns for this. If you use 3 columns, then it obviously narrows down the content. So if you're showing videos in a 3-column view, the video becomes a little bit more squashed. So you have to think a little bit about the content that you want. This time I'm going to go back to the purple scheme, and then I'm going to add on the left hand side, I'm going to add my form. If I keep scrolling down for all my different content, you'll see eventually you get to different kind of content, and there's a Microsoft form. So if you've got a quiz or something that you want the children to complete, you can put that in your homepage if you so wish. So I'm going to click on the form. I could create one from new, but I've got one already here. So it's just going to be a question of, you know, pasting in the form address up here. I've got one here which I'm going to copy the link to. You just go into forms and find the normal link you use to copy it. And now I'm just ready to paste that form in. And I don't want to show the results. I'm just going to use it to collect responses. And you can see that embeds the form there for them to complete. And on this side, I'm going to use the slide viewer web part, or it's called the file viewer. If I scroll down, you can see all sorts of different content here. And I'm going to get the one called file viewer next to the document library file viewer. So I click on that, and then again, you may have them in your OneDrive. I happen to have one ready to upload here, which I'll just find the right one here. It could be a post-learning quiz or some slides you've used to present some key information to the children, and you want them to be able to access it for their own consolidation later on. So I've added that file. It puts in a file viewer for it, so those children can then access those slides nice and easily, just straight from your homepage. So I'm just going to republish this and check it looks how I want, and I'm just going to go to full screen, and you can see how this homepage for my class team is developed. I've got my image, I've got kind of section breaks here, useful resources to quickly surface material for them, resources for them, recent files, assignment, web links, etc. And then forms, file viewers. Again, I could put another break in here just to give some contextual information. But hopefully that's useful for you, and you can see the advantage of using the home page in a class team, and now you've got a few ideas about the sort of content you can display on that home team.